I am sure sports. You know me there, from coast to coast representing. I mean, I say this is righteous representing for Omar. You don't know, come get your sports over here from near and far. Boy. Me say I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. If me not sure, that me not say it. Know who score, that me not say it. Never know no game play, that me not say it. If me never seen a game, me no know who play. For your sports news, better come over here so. For your soccer news, then come over here so. If you don't love sports, still come over here so. For the day done, you are gonna love over here so.
So when it comes on to behavior concerning football, Jamaica is decent. I am sure that if we can get all of these things done, set in place by the end of April, it gives us enough time before the World Cup campaign. Not afraid of no Brazil, no Argentina with these crap of players. We are good enough. Remember to like, subscribe, share. Listen, comment, let me know what your thoughts are.
Jamaican herbs and spices add delicious, bold flavor to your next grilling experience. Flavoring sauce, a marinade, basting, condiment, or topping. Trick Nick Jerk Barbecue Sauce.
Jerk Marinade gives your meats and vegetables authentic Jamaican jerk flavor. The spices are directly from Jamaica. Spices like jerk seasoning, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper, fresh scallions, thyme, ginger, and garlic. The key ingredients to a great jerk marinade. 0% sugar and low in sodium. You want to try it?
Greetings and welcome to I Am Sure Sports. I'm your host, Maninsman, and it is my great delight to have you with us for one more episode, one more show, one more time on our platform. We had a great weekend, a tremendous show last night with the likes of Fred Altiman, Freddie Butler, Dean Sewell, Gregory Messam, and Paul Hall. And if you have not yet watched that, just go to the channel and look at it. This week, we're starting a new feature on our platform, which is called the Coaches Corner. And we're looking at some of the legendary coaches who have been a part of Jamaica's football for a very, very extended period of time. Their contribution to the development of many players from the grassroots to the senior level. And I mean, great work they have done. Most of them you're very, very familiar with. And I still believe that all of them can make a significant contribution to the development, sustainable development of football in our nation. And I'm going to be talking to them in the weeks to come. 2 per week we will do as we cover as many of them. So this morning we're going to start with you would have seen the name Mr. Bradley Stewart. But before I bring him on screen, a couple of things I want to do. And then on Thursday, we're going to be speaking with Mr. Jackie Walters. All right. But before we get in, let me say a big thank you to our sponsors, Trick Nick. Trick Nick is a Jamaican-owned and operated company that it operates out of Canada, and they sell all you need for your barbecue needs and your jerk needs. Barbecue sauce, jerk marinade, hot pepper sauce, curry paste. And they're offering 25% discount on all their products. All you have to do is use the code I Am Sure Sports 001. All right. Our banner also has the link where you can go and shop there. You can shop at www.tricknick.ca. And if you do that, you will get, like, again, use the code I am sure sports 001. All right, before this video ends, we'll also be giving away $500 credit to one lucky person. All right. Yes, I know. Nakta, we were supposed to have Andrew Peart, but we had some difficulties. But we're going to have him on to discuss the whole coaching school. We will do that, Ganesh. All right, we plan on doing that. But without any further ado, I want to introduce our very, very special guest this morning, who is here with us to speak on his coaching in Jamaica over the years up to this point, and what contribution he can make, is Mr. Bradley Stewart.
Mr. Samuels, how are you today?
Man is man. It's Tenet. And man is in here.
Okay. No, you have so much monikers, you know.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's difficult to pin you down to one name.
yeah, man. So man is the easiest one to remember. Very easy. Very easy. Well, wonderful. I mean, how are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm up and running, so I'm happy to be alive and still able to do the things I love mostly, which is coaching, developing youngsters, helping as you go on.
Yes. Great. It's good to have you. It's always good to see the elders in good health and doing what they love. I always tell people you must do what you want to do, and people pay you for doing it. That's the greatest joy you have in life, when you get to do what you want to do, what gives you the most joy. So I'm happy that you're still
As
doing
long as
that.
it keeps you going, you know.
Yes. Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, but I mean, want to begin this morning by, I mean, firstly, I always want to say thank you to all the people who I speak to who have been a part of the football, for their contribution to football in Jamaica over the years. I mean, I know you have been around for a very, very long time. As long as I can remember being in football, your name has been branded about. I mean, from coaching at club level to national level to doing commentary on radio. I mean, National League, you name it, you have been there, you have done that. And so I want to thank you for that, for your contribution, for all the talents that you have developed, and you have helped to taken youngsters from one stage to the next stage. So big thank you to you, and for your contribution to the nation's football. But as we begin, the first question I want to ask is for you to share with us, like, when did it all start for you? I mean, what made you start coaching, and at what point you started coaching? And if you can just go through that journey for us, the time is yours. Take as much time as you want to go through that journey. And as I see things, hear things, I may interject and ask a question for further clarity. But go ahead and
Oh, okay.
share.
Well, it's been a long journey, so you have to be patient.
Yeah.
Well, coaching wise, I played in the early days with YMCA, right? And
Oh.
during that period, I developed a problem with one of my knees, and I determined that probably a follow-up to playing was to get involved in coaching. So at the time I worked with JOS. That's a bus company that is now running things. And Keith Node, as you probably know, that name is synonymous with youth football, which is, I don't know, it is still operating, but he was my boss at the JOS bus company, and he encouraged me to get involved with coaching. So at that stage, FIFA had some programs, that they would invite participants to come and, sit in and do courses. So I did a lot of those courses at the junior level, got involved with coaching at that stage with Duhaney Park. I think that kind of set the tone because of the successes that I had at Duane Park with my minor league team, along with Ricky English and Ken Rose and people like those.
Oh, those
Now
are the
I
persons playing.
graduated.
Those persons were
Pardon me?
playing at. Those persons were playing at Duane Park. Ken Rose and they were
No,
players. Oh,
Ken Rose played in the early stages, but he was a kind of older person.
okay.
But people like Robin Nemard, Desmond Stiff, um, Voodoo, Wayne Lawson, Jeffrey, some of the big names that played Manning Cup over the years. Those
Okay.
players played Michael Stewart. Um, a lot of those quality players that played for the Duane Park team was made up mostly of Calabar and KC players at the time. And we were able to win. I think we had like 3 trophies: a knockout, um, a league, and at the end we played a playoff game. I don't remember what it was called at the time, and we won everything. And that kind of gave Duane Park a push to getting into Major League, winning Major League, going to the Premier League, that kind of stuff.
This was
So
in what era? In the 50s or the 60s?
no, in this, I think the 60s or and probably late
Early
60s, early 70s.
70s. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay.
Well, after that, I graduated into becoming the major league coaches thing, where I coached the same Duane Park team. At that stage, we were in Zone C. We were the kind of leading contenders in that zone. Um, but we had, I would say, a very competitive kind of league at that stage, much more than is happening now with the different age group tournaments, because we didn't have as many teams as is exist at the moment. Um, Duane Park did very well. They went to winning the Major League, qualifying for Premier League, and playing Premier League. A lot of the players in that grouping, some of them you would probably know, like Fuzzy. I don't remember what his last name, Voodoo Lawson. Um, those players, a lot of them went on to college because I got involved later on in recruiting for colleges. People like Hilton Days that played juvenile for Arnett, he got into, um, at the time, it was Wright State that we got him into, but I've been able to get a lot of players into the US colleges, and that would have done well. People like Professor Hutchinson, Banky Gordon, who is a big
Okay,
one
okay.
of his
Bancroft.
lawyers.
That's Bancroft Garden.
Banky, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Um, so I would have Richie Murray. I don't remember Richie Murray that played for Mona. Um, and we had a fairly active program that we did almost on an annual basis, where we'd bring coaches down, take them around the island to different places and so on. So having coached at Major League, I branched out into other teams. I coached Arnett, I coached Hazard, I coached Los Perfectos at different stages. Um, I went and did summer camps after a while. That is before having done a lot of work with Manning Cup teams, spending a lot of time, like 2 or 3 times at Calabar, spending about 10 years at JC, spending time at Wolmer's coaching Manning Cup and Colts, you know. So I've had a long stint in coaching at the highest levels of schoolboy and at Premier League.
So
But I've been
let's
also
take it.
involved. Pardon me?
Hold. Let's take it step by step, right? So you're at Duane Park, coaching, having successes at Duane Park. After Duane Park, where was the next step to, or were you coaching in the schoolboy system at that time, or your first, because your first thing in terms of coaching was at Duane Park?
Yes, at the younger stage.
And you
My
came up the
first,
ranks. Yeah.
I worked at the time at Injured Estate, right? As a recruitment officer, having gone to cast and did personal management. And I had a stint with, as a youngster, coaching the adult men, which was 2 and 3 times my age, playing the Sugar Estate football, where Leighton Duncan was the person in charge of sports in
Okay.
Sugar Estates. And I had a manager at the time, Mr. Campbell, who was responsible for developing Injured as one, if not the number one sporting location in the Caribbean with Injured. And
Wow.
he was on the board at St. Catherine High School, and he instructed me to go to St. Catherine and help them to start their Morning Cup as the first schoolboy coaching I was exposed to was St. Catherine High. And
Okay.
the first goal we scored was against Kingston College. So
You went to Kingston College?
no, no, I
Oh,
went
oh,
to
this.
Clarendon College, but when I started
Oh,
work, my first coaching stint was at St. Catherine. And I can
okay.
remember the first goal we scored in that first year of competition as, newcomers to Morning Cup was against Casey.
But you know what the KC men are going to ask that I ask you though. Who won the game and what was the final score?
No, no, they won the game. That's not just the fact that Casey being one of the top schools at the time,
Okay.
we were
Okay.
able to score our first goal against them.
They were that good. Just scoring against them was a big deal.
Yeah, but it's a big deal just scoring against Casey. So
I see.
let's give them credit for, acknowledge their competence and so on. Yeah.
So it
But
would I went to stint at St. Catherine High, Duane Park, and
yeah,
then
I it's been so many places though. It's difficult to catalog
all
exactly
right, the
where you
journey.
went
Okay,
from.
all right. So let me
Yeah.
ask you now. So your first high school official. All right. Did you take on a high school officially after Duane Park, or was it a club team like Arnett, or was it into the high school
The
system?
club team at the time was Thunderbolts. When I was
Oh,
at Injured, we formed Thunderbolts, and that's the first rural team in Jamaica's football history to have gotten to the finals.
okay. And
Only
you were the coach.
Kingston team
You were the coach at that time.
was the coach and the founder at Thunderbolts at the time.
Okay. For young people like us, tell us where. That's a St. Catherine team.
St. Catherine team that was stationed at Injured Estate Grounds,
Okay.
Chedwin Park.
Who were some of the players on that on that Thunderbolts team?
People like
Start.
Jimmy Lawson,
Okay.
Joe, what's the name of Joe? I almost said Joe Dono. But Jimmy Lawson is probably Ralston Moore. I don't remember that name. He played national at the end.
Okay.
Preckles McHale, Dave Miller. Some of those are the names that played.
Okay. Okay. I know you won't remember all the names.
No,
So
no,
so
it's been a long time.
yeah.
Those are we got to the finals in 1977, and that's a long time to
And
remember.
who defeated you in the finals?
Cavaliers, the only time Cavaliers won
Oh, the
before
Premier
this
League.
time was in
Yes.
1978 when
Yes.
they beat us in the finals,
That's
right? So
interesting.
I
Okay.
had to call Mr. Speed and remind him that hey, you broke the jinx that we had on you.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, so that's Thunderbolt. Um, and then which other thing you have that you can remember after Thunderbolt?
After Thunderbolts, I went to England.
Okay.
Spent some time doing the international preliminary course in England. Um, I don't think it was 77 or one of those years. And when I came back at the time, Billy Marston, Neville Glanville, Russell Bell, those were the people that were running they started Casafa as a unit, and I had gone to form the what is now called the Marvel Huenden Football Club. We I lived in Huenden, so I was trying to get Huenden to play football under the Casafa banner. They said that Marvel Huenden had already had the franchise for that era, so we had to merge with Huenden to
With
form
Marvelly.
Yeah,
Oh.
to form Marvel Huenden.
Oh,
Because
so
they
Marvelly
were
Huenden is
is a
Marvelly and
merger
you.
between
Okay.
right, and
Interesting.
so I did some coaching at Marvelly. As a matter of fact, at one stage, at the semi-final stage, my both teams that I was coaching, my home team, Marvelly and Marvelly Huenden, and Thunderbolts met at one of the playoff games in Kingston. Can you imagine? The same coach,
Yes.
two teams. So I had to sit in between
Oh,
both
so
teams.
you're still coaching Thunderbolts when you came back from
Thunderbolts
England.
at the time and Marvelly, because Marvelly being my home team in the
Oh.
location where I lived, I took responsibility to do some coaching with them,
So
and they both were successful.
how did you do that now? Because this is two teams you're coaching.
you know, I'm not remembering all the details, but I remember that I chose not to sit on any of the benches, right? I kind of sat by myself, and whenever it's kind of difficult to have both teams playing against each other, so you had to kind of withdraw and let your assistants do some of the decision makings for you.
Yes, yes.
Um, so I've had early successes. After that,
Right.
I
Let me
got
just remind you.
involved
Let
with
me remind you. So the season, right? The season that Thunderbolts went to the final with Cavaliers was actually 1980, the 1980-81 season.
yeah.
Yeah, because
So,
I mean, yeah, they got to the final the season before that against Santos,
yeah,
and Santos defeated them, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
they played against you, Thunderbolts, in 1980, 1981, and they defeated you, and then the other year, no competition was held.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So I did. After that, I thought, if I remember correctly, I went to the women's program, Boogie Girls, which was the team out of Boys Town, right? And we had a very successful run. We changed the name to AC Milan, right?
Okay.
I think at that stage I also went to JC and spent like 10 years, 82 to 92 at JC.
You're
And
coaching
during
at
that same
you're coaching at JC. Okay,
for 10
for 10
years
years.
from 82 to 92.
Did
And
you win?
during
Did
that same stage,
Yeah.
I had the AC Milan that trained at JC, and most of the time we had to move around based on, you know, a lot of issues. Girls can't train when the boys are training because it's one field and that kind of thing. We trained at Barbican sometimes, and Charlie Chaplin came on board with us, and we won that tournament for like 6 years. That's the first long-term winner in women's football. It's Charlie Edwards who, of recent vintage, has been able to
Right.
win
That's
that
Charlie
set.
Edwards up at Barbican. No.
Yeah, they've
All
been
right.
able to.
To
But
supersede
at
you.
JC, I had
Yeah.
really successful period.
Did you win
Period
any? Did
when
you win any Manning Cup? Any Walker
didn't
Cup?
win any. No, we got to the finals of Walker Cup on a few occasions, but then Walker Cup seems to have been one of the Achilles tendons of JC, not having won Walker Cup for donkey's years, even from its inception when they introduced the Walker Cup just to pacify the JC grouping. Um, we got to some finals. We got to finals of Manning Cup with Georges on more than one occasion. I thought I had a very successful run. I played for 4 years without losing a game at JC.
And never
That's
won the
I
title.
don't never won the title. I don't know that any of our current coaches have been that successful
Well,
in playing.
you know what they would say? They would say that we lost game, but we won the title. They made me look. They made me say that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
people look at successes in a very different way. I thought one of the successful things at JC was my ability to get kids into college, where I got various kids into colleges.
You remember any
People
of the
like
standout names? All right, go ahead.
Andre Virtue, Dwayne Johnson. Those are some names that Pat Cover. Those are names that I think would
Oh, you
live
coach, your coach,
forever.
your coach Pat Cover.
Yeah, Pat Cover and his brother, his bigger brother,
Okay, what
Errol
about
Douglas.
Gerald Douglas? What about Craig Butler?
Coach Craig Butler, he played Manning Cup for me as a wing back. Yeah.
Yeah. How good was he?
um, he was a good player. He played at wing back, and at that stage we didn't have wing backs that would run the length of the pitch. Craig was one of those players that was able, because of his endurance capabilities, was able to run box to box, make crosses. I don't remember him scoring, but he really did work hard. A
Okay.
very emotive player though, because
A very motive player.
at the end when we got knocked out of the finals at the stadium, we couldn't find Craig. Craig disappeared. We had to find him. We had to get a doctor to get him out the bathroom. you know, so I've I've had some real quality players at JC over the periods.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so I've had successes at all levels: youngsters, Manning Cup, girls. In '92, I thought that not winning one of the major trophies was, for me, disappointing. So I decided I'd stop doing schoolboy thing, and
Okay.
I started to go to the States at the invitation of Hilton Days, who was the head coach at Cincinnati, and Professor Hutchinson, Gladstone Hutchinson, who was one of the early kids that I sent to school.
Right. The one of the kids
Uh,
your coach at doing the park.
yeah, and
Okay.
he came from Pembroke, but he played on the under 19 national team that I had, right?
Okay.
And he introduced me to a lot of colleges. He introduced me, for example, to the Lake Placid Covers program, where I spent another 30 years going there every year to do coaching. So I became a standard in terms of the international flavor. And one year they recruited me to coach at a university up there, um, Poughkeepsie University, which is a private university in Poughkeepsie. So I've had quite a successful career as a coach, and I think I've done a lot of work in terms of helping youngsters to get into college,
All right.
right?
So you coach JC for 10 years. You did two in the park, you did Thunderbolts, you were coaching Marvel U and then for a while.
Yeah, we
After
coach
J after
Wanderers,
right. So
Wanderers
after
for short stints,
right. Hold on. But
Lost
after
Perfectus,
yeah, man.
Lost
We're gonna go
Perfectus
through them. We're
coaching.
gonna go through them. We're gonna go through them one at a time. But so
Yeah.
after your JC stint, you decided that boy, the schoolboy thing not working out. Needed a break. Did you coach any at that time any Premier League team in Jamaica, or you were just traveling to and fro in terms of the states? Or when
No,
next in Jamaica did you have a long term stint after 1992, not doing JC anymore?
Yeah, man, I had stints with Hazard. I had Hazard for a little while when Horace Reed
Was in chat, right?
got the job as Gensec. He was the coach. I was at the time teaching at GC Foster. I was teaching football in the certification program that they had for. They started a degree program, and I became the instructor tutor out there for football. And because I was there, Horace Reed approached me and asked me to do some coaching with Hazard. So I did a stint with Hazard.
How well did you do at Hazard?
That's a good team. Rudy Dixon. One of the names that stands out.
Desmond Smith.
Desi Smith. Who else now? Beach out of St. Catherine. He played for me.
Patrick Beach.
Patrick Beach, yeah. You don't remember all the names, but
Yeah,
those were some of the standout players. Errol Wilkie, a kid from Olava with consummate skills, you know. So we had a very successful run. After I left them, you know, Herman Ming was one of the owners of the thing. And so I used to, in the process, I used to kind of visit my alma mater, Clarendon College, on a regular basis, you know, to try help out with Chung Fa. I had recruited Chung Fa to do some coaching myself and Pickersgill. Anthony Pickersgill and William McLeod did some recruiting for Clarendon College in terms of coaches. So we got Chung Fa into that program. You know, so I've been active on various different fronts over a long period of time, and sometimes it isn't chronicled in the right way.
Right. Yeah, man, totally understand. We know how it is, so we try. That's why we're trying to see by asking the question, because it is so much you can't put it year after year, season after season, because it's so much. So
yeah. I had a little stint too at Wolmer's.
All right. So what I want to get to know is that let's finish up the schoolboy part and then we'll get to some of the club part. In terms of schoolboy, so you finished 10 years at JC, 82 to 92. Were there any more schoolboy team that you had an extended period working with?
I had a stint at Wolmer's. You know, my program amongst colleges would end like about August. It's like a June to August. So when I came back in August, I had a little opportunity to coach like.
Somebody's reminding us that Dennis Tyler Banks also played on that Hazard team.
Yes, he got injured with his knee, and I think that threw him out. You know, but we have had some excellent players in that. Ray Graham. As you go along, the names come back to you. Okay. Omar Cummings played at Duane Park with me. He went
off to Colorado.
Yeah, but he played at
Hazard.
No, he didn't play at Hazard. The Kennedy boys played at Hazard. The Smith twins that went to Meadowbrook played at Hazard with me. Cornell Spence, Howie Martin, Ashley Pecker. You know, those are some of the names that played at
Hazard.
Protectors, the Tony James own team. No. But after summer camps, where we did the college circuit, where we did universities 1 week at a time on the Lake Placid thing up at St. Lawrence University, which was the base, I would come back sometime at the end of August. So like the course team would start a little later than the Manning Cup. So it would be difficult to get into Manning Cup because Manning Cup had a summer preseason training program. So you could get into Coles because Coles usually don't start until school starts after September. Yeah. So I got involved in Wilmers with people like Shelton.
That's Luton Shelton.
Luton Shelton, Boogie. I don't remember some of the names. You only remember the aliases.
Alias. Oh, yes.
Walker, Shamari Glanville. Some real good quality players. Some of them didn't follow up into professionalism, but a lot of them went on to colleges and did well in terms of getting their degrees and holding good jobs now in the States. So and that is sometimes is how you quantify whether or not you would have been successful. I had a stint. I had like 2 stints or 3 stints at Calabar. Alti McCoy, I don't remember that name. He was, before I went to JC, I was an assistant to Alti at Calabar. And I left and then went to JC for 10 years. But after that, Peter Moses, who was one of the kids that I helped to, asked me to come back and do some work at Calabar. So I had an additional stint at Calabar for another 2 years. But, sometimes it is difficult to, how you put it now, there are some schools that have a specific focus on a particular sport, right? Let's say Calabar is a track and field institution. So you don't get the same kind of support in the other sports like you get in track and field. Track and field, used to, for example, if I wanted some gears for training, I had to beg the track and field people for some shirts or ask them to share up some of their nutritional stuff with us because we just didn't get the same kind of support that the other programs got. So so those are some of the things that, whilst it is that every school that plays Manning Cup, I would think, harbors ambitions of doing well. It is not possible based on how the thing is structured, but a lot of people that are on the outside don't necessarily know exactly what is happening internally with some of the institutions.
Okay. So who are some of the players you worked with at Calabar, if you remember any that stood out in your mind?
Heinz, that went on to Wolmer's and won the Manning Cup trophy.
That's Giovanni Heinz. Okay.
Yeah, he's one of those kids. I don't know. He's like a father-son figure where he'd come on and play in my gray hair and that kind of stuff. But it has to do with what encourages players to move, whether or not his parents or the club structure that he belongs to, who runs the program, and how he gets support from those areas. So if you belong to a club and the club is the one that sends you to school and pay your bills and says to you, I'm going to go to one of the other schools, and he says, look, you will be better off going to that school, then the kids move. So a lot of the kids, for example, Calabar in 1 year would lose 8 players to another institution because of that connection.
Whoa.
I'm not knocking.
Yeah, it's just the way the system works. Yeah.
Needs determine what a player does.
Yeah.
Parent needs support for their kids, or the person who is supporting the kids' attendance at school and so on, encourage them to make certain moves. I'm not trying to call any names here. I'm just saying.
Yeah, man. We totally understand, man.
There's the understanding deep down as to what encourages players to move, And for example, a school takes your players that you would have spent 2-3 years developing, and they win Manning Cup. They get the credit, not the person who develops the player.
Yeah.
So That's the kind of lopsided situation that goes on. But I would think that if they had stayed with their original school, they
Institution,
might very
yes.
well would have done better in terms of results.
Yeah. All right. So let's go into the Premier League. I know you worked at Thunderbolts for a long time. Had a short stint at Los Perfectos and Wanderers. Did some work at
Yeah.
Hazard. But tell
Worked
us
at Arnett for a little while.
right.
Yeah.
What about Arnett Gardens? You're also doing the park with Patrick Beach one at a time again. Thinking
Yeah.
in the
And
latter years. Yeah.
Omar Cummings, Michael McPherson,
Jomo Garden.
Jomo, yeah, and Fuzzy, his little brother, Desmond Stiff, Wayne Lawson. Those are some of the names that come to my memory.
Or
That was a good team. I can remember.
if you had to say when would you say it's like when I was in charge of this team, I would say in terms of trophies and competition, this was the most successful period, I would say, or in terms of coach. I'm not talking about players you produce because we're going to get to that, but in terms of a team, when you had time.
I would think that my stint at Duane Park was a very successful one, given that we had come out of a geographic area that didn't have too much accolades words attached to it. At that period, Cavaliers and Santos are probably the two teams that would, on an annual basis, be the top teams in the country. It's later at teams like Waterhouse and Arnett and even Tivoli came to the fore. And I can remember how good this Duane Park team was. We'd run into people who would ask you some real telling questions. How did you get those little fly-by-night players to be playing as attractive as they did? And why is it you can't give away your secrets? The effort at Duane Park was that we had a lot of kids who had no work opportunities. So we could train like probably 2 times for the day, and we would have like bottle drives and walk around in the community and solicit sponsorship so that we could do our own cooking at different parents' places and that kind of thing. So we developed a real bond with the players and the community. So we had great support, like spectator support and financial support from the community. And I thought it did wonders for the community,
Yeah, somebody's also saying that Rowan Juggler Smith was he
Who
a
is
part
that?
of Rowan Juggler Smith?
Yeah, he died. Yeah. But I remember he was part of the program too. And those were regarded as quality players all over Jamaica.
Yeah, and
Skill sets,
Yes, somebody's asking if this is when you won Sid Bartlett. This is the period during which you won the Sid Bartlett.
I think Sid Bartlett, not only Sid Bartlett, but the minor league before that, we won in 1 year all 3 trophies. So this was
the three trophies was minor league, Sid Bartlett, and what again?
And major league.
And major league. And they said that somebody else is saying that Rowan McDonald captained the team.
Yeah.
Okay. So you see how some people know what's going on. All right. So now that is like a synopsis of Schoolboy and although some of the details may not be there. What about your course, your journey throughout the national program? I know your most recent position was you were part of the senior team with Tapa up to 1 point. But I know it didn't start there because you have been a part of the national setup for quite a while. So it
started long before that. It started when I came back from England.
Hold on one sec, mister. Hold on one sec. I think somebody is here saying that Juggler, Fuzzy, and Wayne Lawson met all those players in New York. through Diego Ogilvy. Diego Ogilvy
Yeah.
is a Dewey Park man. Always talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Yes. All right, go ahead. You were talking about when it all
It
started in
really,
national prep.
the involvement with the national program started at the under 19 level. Chung Fa was the coach of the previous team, and he ran into problems because of an age qualification thing, where apparently the structure was changed without him knowing. So he had players in the system that were too old.
Oh,
Um, no, I had just come from England, and one afternoon I was at training. I was training at Marley, and who turns up? The entire head structure from the Casafati thing. Neville Glanville, Russell Bell, Billy Marston, Sims. Those were the executive officers. And they approached me and said they were impressed with the structure that they saw because they didn't before then see any training session that was structured in that way. All right. Because having just come from England, you wanted to bring new ideas to training. And so they approached me and asked if I would be involved with their national program because they had, at the time, I don't remember who was present. Um, whether or not it was Barovia or somebody like that. But the policeman was the Gensec. What was the name again? Oh, the names escape me
yeah.
sometimes.
Don't worry yourself. Somebody in the comment section will tell us who the Gen Sec and the president
Um,
was. You can go ahead,
so
man. Just keep telling the story.
we
We have some
started.
knowledgeable people, who knows the history as well. So they will
Yeah,
help us out.
we started to do some. First thing we did was try and use the Manning Cup, the Costa Cup, to identify the players all over the island. So that's how we used to. There's this guy, Hubert Gray, who was a sports editor at one of the companies. The company was on half a tree at the moment, at the time. I don't remember the name of the company, but they
Somebody said,
closed up. Huh?
all right, then somebody said that the president probably was Herondale.
No, man, Heron Days is long after that. I
Okay.
think it might have been, I don't remember who was the president at the time. That's why I'm bringing up an old name, like Tino Barovia or somebody like that. Barry Cross was the GenSec at that stage.
Okay.
And so we organized one to identify players all over the country because they were carrying reports on schoolboy football. And Hubert Gray was in charge of scouting. That's how we had people like, in those early days, people like Briscoe, people like Mambe, people, those names that would, for anybody that has been involved with football over a long time, those names would ring a bell. And so we got involved and we started our training session. Mikey Manning,
The
David
company
Jones,
was the company the Daily News on Half a Tree Road.
Daily News, that's the name of the company
All
at
right.
the time. And so we set up a system to identify the talent and we got those talented players. To be honest with you, after a while I kind of got scared. Scared because the team was doing so well. We challenged the national team.
Who are some of the players in that team that yeah.
I think Briscoe, Wayne Lawson, um, David Morrison. I don't remember if Chris Derring was in that early group. Um, People like Matt Donald from Tivoli, Bagger Reds, we used to call him at the time.
That's Marco
Uh,
McDonald, Glenmore
Not
McDonald.
Marco, the other one, Reg, the younger
Oh,
one.
okay.
We had Gigi McPherson, who was the keeper out of Cornwall at that stage. People like Long Life. Remember that name?
Oh,
Palmer.
Palmer
Yeah.
from yeah.
So that was a really classical team, and we used to beat up the national team
Cause
until
Long
they.
Life was at state scoring a lot of goals.
Yeah, because Sets had registered him long before. um, so after a while, I got scared because the people in the senior team was kind of getting scared whether or not these players would come and replace them. Yeah, those youngsters never happened. So, but we played. I can't remember. We lost in the finals. I think it was to Guadeloupe on the spin of a coin. That's how good that team was,
Whoa.
right? Because we were tied up on points and they didn't have enough time to play like a
Extra time.
playoff game.
Yeah.
The fixtures wasn't structured that way. So we had to toss a coin to determine the winner. Lost that.
I hear
Cry.
somebody here. Hold on a sec. Let me just give you this because as the comments come in, I see Braxton Harry, bless up Braxton Harry, and then Coach
Yeah,
Carroll.
he's
You remember Braxton? Well, and I see
yeah,
Coach.
man. He operates a store down in St. Anne somewhere there.
I see
And
Karoom Huey here saying Bradley
yeah,
known as Charles Hughes.
yeah, that's the name of the coaching director that I was involved with when I was in England,
Yeah,
Charles
so,
Hughes. So
yeah,
that's
man.
why I get that name because they say I would have taken a lot of the characteristics from them into my coaching.
All right, so let me take one more question and then we'll go back to because you were talking about the under 19 team. We're not going to forget that. But here is our host music asking, what is your relationship with the great Alfred Henry, the youth coach at both JC and UN then juveniles?
Well, he sort of grew up with me. He lives on the road just behind me. So as a youngster, at the time I was doing some things at home, and he and his rest of his cousins used to spend a lot of time with me. I was doing some manufacturing like coolants and that kind of thing. And so he grew up as a youngster amongst me.
Yeah.
So he eventually played for Meadowbrook, right,
Okay.
as a goalkeeper. And then he started coaching. It was whilst I was planning to leave JC, I encouraged him to come to JC. So he made a move, and you know all the successes that he has had. So I spent a lot of time mentoring him,
Yeah,
right?
you're going up too close to the camera now. So we
Oh,
not quite.
sorry, I
Yeah,
spent a lot of time mentoring him. I'd go to JC, he would give me roles, and then he just sits and watch me coach, and and we had a good relationship,
All right. All right. So, all right. There you go. So let's
and
go back to the
even,
under. Go
even
ahead.
now he doesn't have his brothers and cousins. Um, he used to help with recruiting players into JC and Meadowbrook. Those he would take, some he would send to me at JC. So we have had a good relationship, and he calls me every now and again, and I call him every now and again. We still keep in touch.
Okay. All right. So we're back to the national program because we're chronicling that journey. So the under 19 team lost out to Guadeloupe by a flip of a coin. All
Yeah.
right. How did journey continue now in the national program throughout the year? So that was the first occasion. When again and go ahead and share.
Well, I put it this way. When I'm involved with a team, I have to look at what the possibilities are when they would have finished playing at my level. And I was suggesting to the JFF that what we should do is have a graduation process into the senior team
Yeah.
because these players were quality players. And I couldn't get a single player into that national team, even though those same players was beating the national team. So I kind of got frustrated and said to my friend Neville Glanville and so on, look, this makes no sense. Football can't develop if your better players don't move up into the next level at all. So I left the program. They asked me to take charge of the female program after that. I worked with the female program for a little while. They had no funds, right? So if you ask me to coach a team and then you're not providing the resources for the team to do well, then it makes no sense. So I left that program after a while. I was asked after that to become part of the senior team program. I think it was Dr. Dawes who was the president at the time. So he put me in a group with Jumpy Harris, who was the coach. He died recently. Motty Scott, Ali McNabb. I don't remember who else was in the group. We played a game at Kirkwine, and Ali, who was the manager, stayed on the sidelines. I am the one giving the instructions to my team. And he's saying to the goalkeeper, if you do that again, I was getting the goalkeeper and the team to play possession football. So we start our counterattacks quickly with the wing backs so that we play short, crisp passes and move on. And Ali was there shouting to the goalkeeper, if you kick it again, if you do that again, I'm going to send you home.
Who was the goalkeeper?
Sterling, who played for Santos.
Okay.
And I just said to myself, this is kind of madness. I don't know that the manager is a technically competent person, but he's giving instructions. And I just left. I left it with Motty Scott, and Ali McNabb wanted to take over as coach. I don't ever remember that period where he went to Barbados and got a beating. Yeah, so that was a short thing. I had subsequent stints with when John Barnes was here, and he ran into problems with the JFF.
So you were part of the program when Johnny Barnes was here?
When he was about leaving because he had issues with getting his payment and all that kind of thing, they appointed, I think it was Whitmore, and they asked me to help, which I did.
Right, because after John Barnes, it was Whitmore who took up the team, and you were now.
Whitmore.
This was a very, very successful sting for Whitmore, with you and Whitmore. So tell us about that.
Very, very successful. Where the percentage wins was the highest we would have
national coach.
Had. Right, as a national coach. I think what the JFF said was that they feel that I would have taught Whitmore in the 2-year period everything. I don't know if you can take a lifetime of learning and teach somebody in 2 years. So, they asked me to become the TD of the federation, because at that stage, FIFA was saying, if you don't have a TD, you're not getting any funds. So they asked me to become TD, and I refused because they said they wanted to go to a different direction. They wanted to join up with traffic. And you know the history of the arrangement with traffic and the Jamaica Football Federation. So that brought an end to my stint with the national program.
Oh, so it wasn't you who stepped down. They said, listen.
I stepped down because the role that they wanted to give me, I wasn't happy with that.
Oh, so okay, so let me understand. You still wanted to be a part of the coaching staff with Whitmore.
And you wanted now a technical director because you wanted to be able to get funds from FIFA. And I didn't think that suited my qualifications at the time.
Okay,
but they involved me after that with part of the teaching staff at the Jamaica coaching school.
Yes.
where the certification program came on board a second time because I had myself and
Well,
Professor Hut.
all right. Before we get to the coaching, because reason why I want to stop here a little bit, because at that point of Coach Theodore Whitmore leadership of the national program, many people were behind him and support him. All
Yep.
right. All right. Now, I mean, you must. I mean, if you talk to most Jamaicans, no, it is T.O. Tapa O.
Yeah.
Everybody, T.O. Tapa O, Tapa O, Tapa O, Tapa O. Right? But you have worked with him before. Have you been? I mean, recently they appointed like a Maron Garden. Have you ever been approached, like since the Gold Cup that was not the best performance? Have you been approached to by the coach or by the GFF to go back on board and help out from when they look at the state of the program now, it almost, I mean, we still believe, but it looks like the hope is fading, you know. Yeah. Have you ever been approached?
I've never been approached by anybody connected with the football to get involved with the men's program because I've always said that this is the worst that I would have seen of an administration. I'm not prone to keep up my mouth when things are going as badly as it has. So I don't suspect that if you are, I'm not anti-JFF, I'm anti-performance. If you don't do your job well, then I think it is incumbent on you to have an assessment of yourself and make a decision as to whether or not you will stay with it or you resign and leave it to other competent people. I don't think that they are of that ilk. Plus, I had very unfortunate relationships with the current president where we have a foundation on someone's foundation.
Right, I know that. Right, yeah, yeah,
About
man.
10 years now, we've been doing all kinds of stuff. Michael Tullow,
Right.
Forward, then Hutchinson, and
Never
some others,
Oxford and
Neville
all.
Oxford and so on.
Yeah.
And we would have been invited to the JFF at a meeting where we told them some of the things that we're doing and gave them some of the contacts. And they said, look, we want to go on road and visit with those people. And at the end of it, they want to take credit for everything. That is what the press officer has said to me. When there was a press release that there's no mention of the involvement of unsung ones. I question whether or not that was an honest report. And the press officer said to me, he was instructed by the JFF hierarchy not to mention us. And so I have reservations as to the honesty of the JFF. So I don't know that, in all honesty,
you would work with them.
offer me a slot within their system, I would be willing to work with them. I would have serious concerns about whether or not I'm dealing with honest people or not. Because one of the executives had said to me, would I not work with the women's program? And I said to him, that's something I would have to think not only once, but twice and thrice and 4 times before I could make that decision. Because I'm not of the view that they have the level of competence to run this program in an honest way. And I'm saying that based on what would have happened over the period with the kind of missteps that have taken place. Not just with the senior team in terms of a lack of training, which is the basis of developing a team structure, but all happens in terms of flying arrangements.
You have to dress. Yeah, there you go.
how you treat people that have been involved with the women's program. None. It would have been difficult. It would be contradictory to my beliefs to try and work with this
All right,
system.
we're at the hour mark since you have started. So just hold on a second, Mr. Stewart. Let me just say a couple of things. I know that there are persons calling. We will take the calls at I have not put up the number because we are not ready to receive the calls. So please, if you could just wait until he finishes expressing what he needs to, then please just do that. I'm not ignoring you, but that is how we have to structure the program. So we could just
man.
wait.
I mean, the program is guided by you, and we just have to live with that.
Right. So, Mr. So that's one. All right, and then in the meantime, you can put the questions in the comment section. I'll take those. For the call, though, just give us up until 1 hour and 30 minutes, and then we'll invite you on. All right. So the next question.
No problem.
That's not for you. No, that's for the person. That's not for you, man.
The persons who want to call in.
Listen, yes, so just hold on a second, Mr. Stewart. So here's what now. In the meantime, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not. All right. I have a question here from someone who is asking. Duklan is asking, what was the relationship between you and Tapa like? And what is your impression of his coaching acumen?
Honestly, it was Tapa who asked through the JFF that I should come and work with him. As an elder statesman, I've had great relationships with players all over, right? They see me as knowledgeable, at the same time, not unafraid to say what's on my mind. Right? So he said to me, Bradley, I don't think you have any interest in becoming the national coach. So what I want is somebody who doesn't have a problem in dispensing information. So when he came, the relationship was, look, I come to learn. Your job is to teach me, right? If you want to use me any way on the field, and so that I can become an example to the players, he would accede to that. And believe me, that is how it works. He comes, and I would kind of bring him up to date as to what the program is, what the session is all about, how much time you're going to spend with skill acquisition as opposed to small-sided games that have conditions to it. Because you want to focus on a possession type game and so on. So yes, we had a great relationship. Yeah. At games, for example, he would ask me, you talk to the players first, and then he would come in and add whatever he wants to the system.
All right. Yeah, you have to keep the phone. Yeah, just keep the phone.
Yeah, it's sliding. So we had a great relationship. At the end, he's not the person who is going to, put it this way, take everything that I say and do it. For example, I give you an example. We're playing Argentina, and we're leading Argentina 1-0 with almost 90 minutes up, with 3 minutes to go. But we lose the game 3-1 in the extra time. And what he said, I'm committed to seeing players at this stage because this is a practice situation. And he doesn't think like me in that light. For me, I would have made some changes to make sure that I shore up my defensive unit, because that is where, it seems that we were having some issues, players getting tired and so on. So I think he's...
Well, this is very interesting, because one of the challenges a lot of people have with the coach now is that he takes too long to make changes. And when the changes are made, because so every time he has made let me say it this way. On a few occasions recently, when he has made a change, we have conceded a goal.
Yeah.
In the game against Mexico, that happened, and even in the recent game against
El Salvador.
So it's very interesting
Yeah.
that you have brought up this in terms of that which used to happen back in what 2015.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think he's committed. Like every coach has his own style, right? And his style is that he wants to see his players probably play under stress to see if they can improve. Um, Depending on the results you want, that is what you do in a practice game. When you have to get points out, you need to be able to strategize. If it is you're leading with just a few minutes to
yeah.
go,
Let me
then
pick
you
your
can
brain
play.
because I
You
want to
can,
pick your brain because if that was your role in 2015, who is playing that role now for Tapa in this
I
present?
don't know. I know he has Miran Gordon and Paul Hall with him as assistants. I don't know if it is that they have the same approach like I have. My job, I thought, was to give him the best opportunity to succeed in any game by showing him the tactical things that could happen in a game. If you, for example, I'm playing Duane Park against Timo from Maypen, but we get a red card at halftime. So we're playing with
10 men.
9 players against 11. And we play with one strikers and one striker who has some kind of speed. And we play the rest of the people in defense. And we win the game
Yeah.
because we defend with enough players. At the same time, we use that one player to move their defensive unit from side to side so that they have to spend 2 and 3 players defending against one. So if it is that he's not acclimatized to what the international game requires, it's going to always be a problem. Because I don't know that Miran or Hall knows the rest of the players as well as he does. Or at the outset, I felt that this was very, very anti Whitmore, that he would play a game against Mexico where the team seemed competitive and you take 9 players out of that game and introduce players who would never have played for us. So you don't know exactly what their DNA is about. Are they committed? Are they motivated? Do they have the skill sets for a game? All of those questions are questions that the coach should pose. And is it that he was given instructions to change up your team because you need to play players who we would have spent money on to bring them from England and house them and feed them? I just don't know. And I don't think that the answers we're getting is consistent with what is happening.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's because you already have the perception that they are not a truthful group. So you're not going to understand me. So the answers, like I said, based on how you know the coach, your assumption is that he would have been given instructions to play
Instructions to make changes.
to make that amount of changes. Okay, very
And
interesting.
I don't think that Whitmore is going to deny anything because I think he wants to protect his job.
Okay. Well, unlike persons like you who talk your mind, because
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
yeah.
I
But
suppose it's how you grow up, the values that you hold dear, the truth matters every time.
what does he need to do though to because I mean you said that I remember you were talking earlier about telling your team the keeper to play the ball out. We don't even do that now. In 2015, we're playing the ball out of the what I mean was there a system based on what you have seen now? What is the system? Is there a system that we're playing with or
I don't know. I don't know. I've watched little portions of the game because in the portions that I watched, I've not been able to make any conclusions as to what system we're playing or what kind of roles you have accorded to specific players within the system. For example, your defensive midfielder, is he the person along with the wing backs who try and start the game at the back, you know? So you try and move side to side based on where the ball is so that you allow players to move forward into zones once you have possession. I'm not getting that message based on the movement of the players out there because having coached in the States for a long period, you get to understand how a lot of the other countries think about the game. It's like, almost like a pre-planned thing. I think that we are still at a stage where we allow players to be the ones that make decisions as to where they go and why they go there. That's archaic. We have to get the players to do what we know to be the best thing for the team. And until we do that, we're going to continue to struggle with quote unquote excellent players because they don't have a system in which they can do their thing and be successful. So, you know, I've since this is the pandemic, you don't even get a chance to watch a training session. Right? I don't know if I'd be welcome there, but then I could go there as a spectator. He doesn't have to welcome. Nobody has to welcome me. I am wanting to see what is happening and make up my own mind whether or not I'm going to have sleepless nights watching this football, right? Or when the people from the press ask me what I think, how best can I put it there so that I can get the right message across, you know? So that's the situation.
So what about some of us who believe that there is a system, it is a long ball system?
Well, that's archaic though. Yes, that's a system that even the English teams, which are famous for sticking with that system, have changed in the last 5, 10 years. So if it is that we're that backward, then what do you expect? What kind of results do you expect? If it is that we are not evolving in terms of our team strategy and our functions within the team, then we're not going to be able to have the results that are consistent with teams that are evolving.
Right. I've a couple of questions coming in. One says, what are your views on the talent pool that we have at our disposal? And if managed correctly, should we be doing better?
I would say, and to answer it in a kind of reverse way,
Yeah.
the talent pool is going to be assessed based on the results you get. This team that they have currently is supposed to be a talented team based on the players and the quality leagues that they are playing in. But without training together and developing innate understandings as to what a player likes, how does the player expect to be played the balls? If you don't train after enough, that is going to be foreign for the players. So when they get into a competitive situation, cohesiveness and coordination is going to be missing badly. So, you know, until the JFF provides opportunities for the team to train, or alternatively, for the coach to go into the environment where he gets his players from and try and learn what it is they do in those local situations, then we're going to be at a loss as to what best we can expect from these players. Because I don't think that up to now we would have accumulated 20 training sessions with this group of players. And all of us know that it takes about 2, 3 years to develop a quality team. We don't, at the international level, Southgate doesn't bring the English team and not know what they're doing. Because the English FA has scouts that goes around and video the players, or the clubs video the players and then pass the tapes to the federation. So the technical staff has an opportunity to look at those videos and determine what's the best role for the players. We don't have none of those systems are in place. So every time we play, we try and learn probably in the first 20 minutes what the other team does. And probably that is when the other team exploits us, because they have a kind of rigid system of how they play their first 20 minutes. And so you have to learn now what it is they are doing. And by the time you learn anything at all, they would have scored some goals on you. So we are, even at the club level in the States, you know, there's that kind of system in place where you have videographers and well, the league generally has systems now where the players connect up to a system. So you can video a game and you can look at each player individually, and it tells you how many passes he makes, how many tackles he wins, where he plays the ball to. So you learn intimate information as you go along. But I don't think that the JFF has invested in the resources that are necessary for them to be in a better position to learn more about teams and individuals.
Okay, so scouting the other teams. All right, here's the next question here. Is it possible that Tapa might have gotten instruction from the bigger boss, Mr. Stewart? If you got that instruction, what would you have done? Would you have followed the instruction or stick to your game?
Well, it depends on your mindset. If the coach wants to keep his job, right? And he thinks he knows enough about the players, then you can say to them, look, I am willing to listen to some of the suggestions, but because I'm the coach, I have a responsibility to make technical decisions on who I play. If you can convey that to the JFF, then, you know, the JFF, I don't think is that stupid to tell a coach, play those players or you're going to lose your work. Because if as a coach, if you're honest enough with yourself and the JFF tells you that, and you in turn say to the press, I've been instructed, then enough pressure, I think, would come on the administration to walk away from the jobs. But then if you accede to the request and you don't deny that you were instructed, then you're going to have to take the blame.
Yeah. All right. So we go, because there's so much, right? And I know in 6 minutes time we're going to allow the callers to call in. Some going to have questions, so some going to call in to big you up. So in 6 minutes time, people, you can call in. In the meantime, please hit the like button, and if you have not yet, subscribe to the channel. I mean, big up all of you, as the coach Jerry Miller, all the coaches who are in the chat, all the other persons who run channels who are here. Good to have you. I said Damian Hyatt, former national goalkeeper, also in the chat. Good to see you, my friend. So so now, I mean, let me just ask you a different question. I mean, I know you're involved in coaching right now. So let me ask you that question. You tell us about that, what you're doing and how you are helping to make coaches better in Jamaica, because you're involved in a program. Share with the people. If you're out there and you're a coach, you need to listen to this, because we're going to come back to some more of the questions, but I think I need you to hear what Mr. Stewart is involved in, engaged in now in terms of coaching education that could be beneficial to you, because this is how football is going to be developed. from what we call the developmental stage or the grassroots stage. So go ahead and share a
Well,
little
well,
bit.
thank you again. I'm the technical director of a program that is involved with the Ministry of National Security in challenged communities all over Jamaica. I am volunteerism head honcho. Chris Rose is the consultant with government. So whenever there's a community that is showing negative signs of violence and all of that, we go into those communities and try for a behavioral change, So we involve them with football. We have them in training sessions over 2-3 day periods and other. Not everybody wants to play football. Some people want to do artwork, so they do poems, and some people want to play chess and that kind of thing. So we have other folks with us where we would run for like 3 days at a time. And to be honest with you, I think it has been very, very successful. I would think that it is the government who should be saying whether or not the program has been successful. But from a coaching perspective, the involvement of people and the responses that we would have gotten from the locals has been extremely encouraging. I'm also involved with Dr. Kingsley Chin, one of the young players that went to Titchfield. And I got him into college. He's a multi-billionaire now. He's purchased Star Cosmos out in St. Mary, Portland there. And I sit on that board as an advisor. I sit on a coaching support group from Manchester with Dr. Carl Bruce, who is the head of the university hospital, as a consultant, where he sends videos to me, or I go to a match and I make an evaluation of adjustments that he could be making within the team or roles of individuals within the team, and whatever improvements he can make in the physical and attitudinal aspects of his players. So I'm not exactly dormant, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I still help out with Marvally, who is the team that I founded.
But most
The
importantly, yeah, man. Most importantly, I want you to share about your role at Covers Coaching.
Well, the Covers thing is multifaceted. Because of the pandemic, certain things have not been happening. We want to put on events like six-a-side tournaments. We have done coaching development. We had with the Ministry of National Security, we would have mentored about 20 odd coaches by having in-house sessions with coaches down there, and certified about 20 odd coaches, who those coaches will now become coaching mentors that the government has intentions of probably putting them into school programs, right? And hopefully would change the mindset of our current coaches in terms of how you develop youngsters. Whether or not I've seen programs where you come to training, the coach say you run 2 laps and then put 20 odd people out there to play and keep changing them, as opposed to a Covers program, which is strictly developmental, where the emphasis is on repetitions to become efficient at whatever you're doing, passing, technical stuff like heading, shooting, small-sided games in terms of movement, touches, whether or not you're going to be a ball hog as opposed to a team person that knows when to pass, when to make good decisions. And until our program in Jamaica starts its foundational stuff by developing players at the earliest stages rather than a top to bottom thing that we have at the moment, where the JFF is doing certification coaches for B license and C license, but you don't have a grassroots program. That can't work. You don't build a house from the top, you build a house from the foundation. And until that is recognized, then we're going to continue to have problems.
Mr. Stewart, all right, I have someone on the phone who wants to
Okay.
speak. Go ahead, caller.
Big up the legendary Mr. Bradley. This is Diego, your neighbor. You don't know it, though.
I'm not hearing you clearly.
Well, this is Diego Gilvey, your neighbor.
Okay. How you doing, man?
Bradley, how you doing?
I am good. You know, I'm.
I can go
They say that
and talk. Hold on, Mr. Stewart. Just listen and then what you do when he's finished, I'll let you respond. Go ahead, Diego. He's
All right, big up Bradley. Now,
Yes, Diego.
you mentioned my favorite national team, the juvenile team.
Okay.
You mentioned some of the players, especially Voodoo Lawson.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you mentioned three or other my great favorite players. Errol Blake on the left, Andrew Tapper-Zuki Sinclair on the right, and the
Yeah.
great Glenroy Button and the Mard in the middle. That team was the closest team to actually qualify for the World Cup before the 98 team, when a lot of people don't know it. So I'm glad you're reminding the people how great those players were.
Give us his three names again, Diego. Give us his three names. Tapper-Zuki.
Andrew Tapper-Zuki Sinclair.
Andrew Sinclair is his right name.
Great Errol Blake from Camperdown. And the great Glenroy
Sambo.
Button and Lamar from
And Sambo from Calabar, from your school.
College.
Yeah.
Those were great players. I just wanted, I didn't hear him mention them, so I just wanted to let the people know that team was the greatest national team until the 98 team came. And those were all local players.
Okay. All right. So Diego, I'm going to let him respond. So if you can just listen up and you'll hear him respond to that.
Yes.
Yeah, man. All right. Any other question?
No, I heard the names he was calling, but I didn't.
One other question for him now.
I want the question now.
Hold on, Mr. Stewart. Go ahead, Diego.
Does he agree? Because we play attacking football. That's what Bradley also played when he was coaching. I coach it. Does he agree with Tapper Whitmore playing two defensive midfielder, and especially one named Javon Watson, who cannot go forward, cannot possess the ball, cannot create? Does he agree with that two defensive midfielder formation?
All right. So listen up. All right, Diego. So I'll let him answer that question so you can listen up. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for calling.
I kind of get the gist of what he's saying.
All right. So first, he was saying that you never mentioned three of the players when you were naming Tapper-Zuki Sinclair.
Yeah.
One from Camperdown.
Errol Blake.
Right. So he was mentioning those names. And then the second question, of course, he says that you guys are named. But the second question is, do you agree with Coach Theodore Whitmore playing two defensive midfielders? One being Javon Watson, who can neither go forward nor backwards. Just paraphrasing that part. Yes.
That's being harsh. There are some things that happens naturally with a player on the field. He attacks, right? That's a natural way of playing football. So if a player doesn't go forward, it is that he's being instructed to stay home. But if you're playing two defensive midfielders, then obviously one of those players has to join in the attack when you have possession. And it would be abnormal to have two defensive midfielders and both players stay home all the time. So if that is what Diego says is happening, then I would think that we are missing out on the principles of the game. Principles of the game being when you have a possession, you attack. When you don't have possession, then it is acceptable to have two defensive midfielders because you want to be able to protect the spaces in front of the box and in front of your defense, and you want to be able to have your wide wingers and so on, and the wing back control the wing spaces. So it is how you use them. When do they go forward? Or when are they supposed to go forward? So if a player doesn't go forward, none at all, then something is wrong with it.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Someone is asking if Tapa were to resign or be removed, is there any options you think in terms of local coaches that you think could probably take on this job? Or anyone
I,
yeah.
I am not exactly sure who currently are our what you call coaches that we can assess to say a single coach would be able to get the kind of support. What I would think is that what you should do is have a panel of coaches, right? You have
Okay.
a coach that might do well in terms of
Defensive
dealing with
setup.
strikers.
Okay. Go
Just
ahead.
like how the American football is played, you have an offensive coach, you have a midfield coach, you have a defensive coach, and then you have a coach coordinator that coordinates all the different aspects. Because with 30 odd players in our grouping, it's almost impossible to have one coach. You need coaches that have serious responsibility for different phases of the game. That's my view.
Okay. Okay. I think that's a good. And I've heard Freddie Butler, I've heard Dean Sewell, I've heard Paul Young, some of the persons I've interviewed who said that. He even heard Michael Tullo said that you need somebody like him to be a part of the program to teach the players how to head the ball properly.
Yeah.
So I think that's a fabulous idea. I hope it is something going ahead that we can look at. That this idea of just having one and two persons.
One of the problems, though, is does the JFF have the kind of resources to be able to employ 3 and 4 persons within the system? Because if you look at our history, we have not been able to play our women's coaches, right, to the extent that they get so frustrated that they have to walk away, right? Since I've been with the Jamaica Football Federation, when I was involved, it's no less than 2 or 3 times that they would have adjusted your salary.
Oh, whoa. I mean, you know, let me ask you this: what do you think needs to happen? What are the like the 3 steps, 5 steps to development of football in Jamaica? What are some of the things that needs to happen? And before you get into that, people, please, you have to hit the like button. We can't have these great thoughts and views being shared by Mr. Stewart being on 39 minutes and we're just having 59 likes on the video. Just hit the X like and then just keep on watching. Come on, man, hit the
Okay.
like button. All right, so
I just did.
there you go. All right, see, Mr. Stewart, even liking his old video, you have to do that to people. But what are your thoughts, right, on what are some of the things that needs to happen? I've heard people say that schoolboy football not doing, it's not developing the players properly. The Premier League is not structured in the best way. Our surfaces are not good. The coaches need to be better. We don't have enough. Like, what are some of the things that needs to
Well,
be implemented?
it's a combination of factors, and you would have mentioned some of the most important ones. Firstly, I would think that from a coaching development perspective, one needs to approach this coaching structure a little differently. you can't have coaches aspiring to become an A-level coach without giving them a foundation on which they can build, right?
Yeah.
So I would suggest that, and I've spoken to Mr. Speed already about having like the COVAS program as a basis for your grassroots development, where in that kind of structure, like happens in Holland, like happens in most countries, at 6-year-old to 8-year-old to 10-year-old to 12-year-old, you have, it's like you're building the house. You build the foundation, then you build the different compartments, where you're going to put your bathroom, where you're going to put your showers, that kind of thing, where you're going to have your dining area, where your bedrooms are going to be, before you reach to the second floor and then the roof or whatever. What we are doing is we're starting at the top and developing A license and B license and C license, when the coaches themselves don't know how to impart in a structural way coaching information to kids so that they can develop and become competent. As they get older, you teach them more complicated stuff. So you teach them the basics first, then you teach them, you add on things as you go along. So when they become 15 and 16, they are competent. They know how to control. They know how to pass. They know when to move and why they move. They are accurate in terms of shooting for the corners or for the top corner or whatever. You know, so coaching is, no matter how good your players are, if you don't have a good surface, it comes to naught. So we need to develop quality fields.
All right, before you get to the field, let me go to can you talk about the coaching part first, right?
Yeah.
Are you a part, because I know they just started a new coaching school. Have you been invited to be a part of that? Are you just not working with this administration, or you have not been approached? Or
The
if
new
you're
coach,
approached,
I taught at the old coaching school, the JMM coaching school, right?
okay.
I left it because I kind of wasn't happy with the remuneration thing. I don't know if that has changed, but the current people who run the system have not made any approaches to me, and I'm not the one that is going to make an approach to them.
But if your approach, given how you feel about them, would you still look past that to help with the football and be a part of the coaching school?
No. I think my alternative will be to try and find ways to introduce the COVA program within the schools. So I'm trying to see if I can.
So you're not gonna really work with the administration.
No.
You will find other ways.
To work with any administration who I don't have the highest regard for is going to be too stressful.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So I'm trying to
find other ways of getting it into schools.
Yesterday we had a discussion with Chris Rose, who himself and myself are the persons authorized to deliver the COVAS coaching in Jamaica, to whether or not we could approach ISA and develop all the Manning Cup and the Costa Cup teams. Okay. After that, we will probably have an approach to try and develop all the clubs, but that has to have approval from the JFF, which is going to be difficult, right? Because JFF is dependent on not having the right information, but what CONCACAF says to them, right? ISA, I don't think, is always obliged to follow the dictates of the JFF. They have an independence as to how they want to develop things.
Okay.
So I'm trying to see if I can.
You can work through ISA.
Work through ISA first. After that, we see
what about like primary and prep school?
No, the school system is independent of the JFF.
Right, because
So we
East
can
is just
try
a high school, you know. I'm thinking about
high
the
school, primary schools, whatever. If we can go to that stage,
okay.
then for me, that is the most basic of stages, and that is where you want to start the development.
All right. So that is the coaching side. Then you're getting to the fields now that you're talking about.
Yeah,
Getting to,
we have to have. I know the tropics poses a lot of problems. If you don't have wells or you don't store rainwater, then it becomes difficult to maintain your fields in certain qualities. But probably with some government assistance, you could have a main field and you could have training fields, right? And if you had one or two centers in each parish, then you could be playing double headers and triple headers on quality fields rather than be playing on some fields that are without grass and have so much stones that sometimes you walk on the field, your ankles turn over on you. That's not going to help us. I mean, when you look at having worked inside the states and see the quality of the fields that exist out there and the spaces, I've been to locations that have 50 football fields in one spot, and every weekend they have tournaments. But we are not at a stage where we have more than two fields. On average, we have just about one field. So it's involved on a daily basis with training with the senior team, the Premier League team, the Major League team, the age group teams. And so they have to structure 5 different teams on one day. Now, which field is going to be able to accommodate that kind of traffic and not get deteriorated in 2, 3 months? So until we have adequacy in terms of the number of fields, then it's going to be difficult. So there's, if you drive out of the country, you see acres and acres of arable land that it will be easy to put a field in. So I don't know that we have private investors that is going to put their money in there, knowing that people not even going to rent them. So probably the government has a responsibility. If it is, they are serious about sports,
Okay.
which
So
a lot of people don't seem convinced that they are.
that is second.
Then,
Okay. So that's the second. The first thing is the coaching. The second thing is the surfaces. Let me just take this one. Brian Mighton. I mean, people have pinned the link. Let me say this. I've pinned the link. So that you can, if you want to come on and ask a question using the link, you can. Just make sure that you have your cameras on and you have good internet access, and you can come on, spend a little time, ask a question, 3 to 5 minutes you have, and then we invite somebody else on. So if you want, the link is pinned, so you can come on and have a conversation. But just make sure your camera is nicely positioned, probably landscape, and you have good internet access. And then once you come on, you can make your point. Brian is asking if you're still involved in New Raiders in St. Catherine.
no. Two things happened. Mr. Blair, who was the owner of the team, he changed over ownership to McKay Security, right? And then after that, Mr. Blair died. Now, I was helping Raiders because his son, I had organized for him to go to school, right?
Okay.
He's now the technical director at Sycamore Premier, right? So in the summers, when I'm finished with my cover program and I come back to Cincinnati, he would ask me to do some work with the club. So they would give me 2 or 3 teams that I would be involved with twice a week. But so that, because I was staying so long from June all the way to November, when you got back to Jamaica in November, those programs had already started. So it was never possible to get into teams and be able to have valuable inputs, because a lot of time, in order to have your team play in a certain way, you're going to have to be involved in like preseason training, practice matches, so you can make assessments and that kind of thing. So I chose not to go for the short term thing, because if you're going with a team and it doesn't do well, people are going to start apportion blame. And I'm committed to certain things. You have to have preseason training where you are allowed to develop understandings amongst players and understandings with your coaching staff. And that is not possible when you come back here in November when the leagues are halfway down the road or soon to finish. That's not the best of ways, you know.
All right. So we have someone here. Your phone muted, so go ahead and ask a question quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
I'm fine. First question, would I like to ask you? It refer back to where I say about the fees, the 2 fees in a St. Catherine, because in the parishes, because me that think about the same thing as well. You see it? And I say me that think about the same thing as well. That's about the 2 fields in each parishes.
Yeah. What needs to happen is that if it is that you're going to develop 2 locations in a parish, you want to be able to play, like say, double headers or triple headers or whatever. So when I say a field, I just don't expect just the playing surface for the main game. I want to have fields that people can warm up in. And so you need like 4 or 5 fields in any one area. Because if you're going to have like tournaments, you need to be able to host 40 teams in one day, right? So when I'm saying field, I just don't mean a 1 football field. And if you're going to play double headers, the other teams doesn't even have an area where they can warm up. And I'm saying that based on the amount of, especially in the areas that you had a lot of cane. Have you driven out in rural Jamaica and see the expanses that exist out there without anything, just bush growing up on it? So if we could utilize those facilities, for example, at Innswood, for example, there's in the Heartlands area and even on the main road, you have a lot of places that they are putting up housings estates. Now you could put in fields where the schoolboys, for example, could have tournaments on weekends, like happens in the States. And Jamaica is such a small place that people can travel to a venue and go back home and come again the next morning, as opposed to the States where you have to travel for 4 or 5 hours to get to a facility. So if it is that we can invest into putting up facilities, but let's not use the word fields, facilities that can be multi-purpose facilities where netball could come and play if you have housing. Cricket could come and play if you have a 1 field with.
All right, Mr. Stewart. All right, so I think that has answered that question for the caller. But caller, here's what happened. I put you on mute because when I take you off mute, because you're listening to the video, there's a feedback. But I'm going to take you off mute so you can ask the next question, and then you can hang up from the live and then listen out, because there's a feedback because you listen to the program on the same device as well. But go ahead and ask the next question.
All right. My other question, because I St. Catherine I come from really, is it Spring Village?
Spring Village, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I worked at Innswood for a long time. I worked at Innswood.
As I say, still towards the football, because I don't really see that them are pushing the effort towards the football to try to help out the sport. Yeah? And my other question to you is, if you were the person in charge, as I say, what would you do to develop the football?
Well, there are
Hold on,
multiple.
Mr. Stewart, because here's the feedback. Thank you, Espada, right? So we're just gonna remove it so we don't have the feedback, and then you can just listen, all right? But thanks for coming on, really appreciate it, and thanks for the support on the channel as well. Yeah, man. All right.
Well, let me answer it this way. There's a multiplicity of things that needs to happen. First thing that we have to have an administration that is trustworthy, that people can respect, that the extent to which missteps are made within this administration has to cut down drastically. Or I think the administration has to be honest with themselves and determine that, look, I'm not doing a good job of administering. Might as well I leave it and put new people in there. If you listen to like a Carvel Stewart, who is a serious person within the JFF and a serious person within the CASAFA, you will recognize that there are too many gaps between what the umbrella organization does and the organizations lower down. That decisions are being made without any consultation with the shareholders within the system. That to me is called dictatorship, right? So what we want is an administration that is cognizant of the governance principles that has to be maintained. That's one. So we need an administration that knows what to do and how to do it. The other one is to have competitions that are consistent with one, the population size, the sponsorship possibilities that exist out there. For example, at the moment, we have 12 teams that are playing Premier League that are struggling to finance 12 teams based on sponsorship and whatever. But there's a move on the part of people in the JFF to move the number of people playing in Premier League to 30 odd teams when 12 teams can't be satisfied with sponsorship. So I don't know. It's like you have a family and your finances can only allow you to have one child, but you end up with 6 picnics. Everybody going to suffer. So that is where we are. So we need to look at how we structure our football based on those people that have quality fields. Because if you play a Premier League and everybody have to travel all over the place, and the surfaces that they're playing are no good, the quality of the football not going to improve. So when it would take us 2-3 years to identify real talent levels, it's going to take us 10 years.
Yeah. See, Brian, go ahead and finish up your point.
So there are multiple things, right? How we treat players, right? There's no system where players currently who their lifespan as a footballer is kind of limited, right? But players go through, play well, things happen to them, and they struggle. Look at what is happening with
Melvin
Banky and our efforts to put him in a decent housing situation.
Yeah.
Even the JFF has not tried to help. But when we reach to a stage of fruition, everybody jumps on board and wants to take credit. When in 10 years, we couldn't get any help from the authority.
Yeah.
You know, and it makes it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
What is it that makes us want to be involved?
Yeah. People.
The love of people or the love of power.
Yeah. All right, so here we are. We're at the 2-hour mark. We have around 15 minutes to go. Because we're at the 2-hour mark, right? So a couple of things we're gonna do. First, here's this comment where Brian is saying, tell Coach Bradley no football facility can be built in Heartland. Violence down there is outrageous. All right, so let me just read that.
Violence everywhere in the country is outlandish. So probably if we could put a football field down there or academy down there, people would probably spend some time coming to the academy
Yeah.
and don't have time to go fire shot in on the night. So it has some opportunities to change the way how people behave though.
All right. So let me
So
let me do this.
don't give up on it.
Yeah, man. So let me say this. I want to say big up to our sponsor, Tricknick. Remember that Tricknick is a Jamaican owned and operated company that operates in Canada, and they're offering 25% discount on all your products. All you have to do is shop at www.tricknick.ca. Enter the code, one word, I am sure sports 001 to get 25% discount on all your products. At the end of this video, we will show you a couple of ads with their videos so you can go out there and support them and let them know that you heard about them from I Am Sure Sports. Secondly, we're at the point where we're going to give away $500 credit to a digital customer or a flow customer. All you have to do is be the first person to answer this question. All right. Name 5 teams that Bradley Stewart has coached, and you must put in there the team that he coached the longest. All right. 5 teams that Bradley Stewart has coached, and you must put in there the team that he coached the longest. If you can answer that question, you will win for yourself $500 credit to your phone. All right. I hear Brian saying that Mr. Bradley coached me while I played at New Raiders FC when I was at Jose Marti. I kept goal at New Raiders.
Nice. Is he the goalkeeper?
Yes, he's a goalkeeper. They call him.
Okay. I can't remember. I remember him. We used to be in contact regularly, but of late I haven't heard anything from him.
It's 3 W's in a man is not 2. I don't know. I don't understand that, Duclan. And then Mr. Dimension, no, I said you have to name 5 teams. You name only 2. Come on, man. 5 teams, including the one he coached the longest. So you have to drop in. You can't give me 2. You have to give me all 5. Send in the text and let's see who's going to win. But some of those things you're really talking about is but all right. I see him putting in a couple more names. So he has Los Perfectos, Duane Park, New Raiders, Wanderers. That's 4. And you need to put in a next team, one that he has coached the longest. I think we have. Hello?
Come on. You were listening.
Mr. Stewart, we have Chaddy Hines online. So, Chaddy Hines, you know who it is. Mr. Stewart is going to listen to you and then he will comment so you can listen back and hear his response. All right?
Yes.
So, go ahead.
I just want to show my appreciation, to the good work that you are doing, management, and also to Mr. Stewart Bradley, somebody who I've followed through the years of his career, and he's always doing his best. But one thing I can say for sure, he's not going to lower his standard to suit anybody. That man is a man of principle, right? People say miserable and behave like him know it all, but he's just a man who believes in himself and is a man of principle. And one thing I'm sure, the best tapper I've ever looked is when he was under the guidance of Bradley Stewart. And if JFF, they wanted the best for the country, they would have never break up that union. Although he said he was the one who walked away, but they should have a look on the result that the program was having at that time and see that they could do something else and keep this man in the program. But because this man don't stand for crap, and he's a man of principle, and he speak the truth, they wouldn't keep him. And now Tapa is at the lowest he can be right now. It's better for him to just walk, leave the program, and be honest to himself. Right? Mr. Stewart, be Jamaican, we appreciate you. We are proud of you.
right? And wish you more health and more strength and continue to do what you can do for this country until God should take you to that place of rest. We love you, sir. We appreciate you. Thanks much.
All right. Thank you, Chadsy. And I'm going to let him respond so you can listen. All right. All right. So, Mr. Stewart.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. Go ahead now. So you can respond to what you heard a while ago.
I want to thank him for his views. There are a high percentage of people who has the same opinion that he has. Bradley Stewart believes in a certain way, right? Without trying to, I'm not trying to be disrespectful of anybody. I want to judge people on the basis of their performance. And if it is that you're not performing well, I think you have an obligation to the people that you serve to make a decision. So again, thanks for the words, and I'm hopefully going to continue to live a little longer and, you know, support those principles. And if we can have more people supporting those principles, like truth, let it be the thing that you're guided by, I think we'd be better off.
Yeah. All right. All right. So I think, Mr. Stewart, I think nobody got the question right if I was hearing right, you know. But Mr. The Mr. Dimension said Lost Speed Duane Park. Then he says New Raiders Wanderers. Then he said Rivoli. You coach those teams, but none of those teams.
But none of those teams are
right,
classified as the longest.
All right.
Yes.
And then somebody said Rivoli, United, Marvel, New Raiders, Lost Speed Duane Park, but none of those teams are the longest either.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Everybody has missed that one.
Everybody has missed the team that he has coached the longest. So let's see who is going to get it. Because
if nobody gets it, you give it to the host.
Yeah, no, that's maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that. We'll give it to the host if nobody gets it. But see, Broxton Irie saying that spot on, my boss. These points need to be echoed constantly across Jamaica. Great job, my boss. Grassroots. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. All right. Come on, people. He made mention of it. You know, I can't even tell you. If I give you a clue, you're gonna get it, right? It's not. All right. All right. Here's what happened. All right. You have to put in all 5 teams. You can't put in one team, you know, because different persons are putting in one team. But Mr. Dimension, you're missing it. You're calling all the teams. But the correct answer is out there, you know. Somebody has actually put in the correct answer, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. All right, so let's give it away. Yeah, man, I'm going to give it to Mr. Dimension because he was the first one. But the team that he coached the longest, All Sports Jamaica, got it right. He said JC, and that was from 1982 to 1992, which was a 10-year period, right? That was the longest one.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Right. But no, All Sport only had one answer. Mr. Dimension had 5 answers. More than 5, 7 answers, but he didn't have that. So we are going to give it to Mr. Dimension. Mr. Dimension, so here's what you do right now. Watch. This is a number. If you tell me what phone you use, right? Tell us what phone you use. And then you send your number to this number. Then we'll send the credit to you in like 5 minutes. All right? So tell us what type of phone you're using, Mr. Dimension, and send us the number, and then we'll send it off. All right, but lot of respect. So right, Mr. Stewart, anything else you want to share with the coaches out there listening, because there are several coaches out here listening, several young footballers out here, persons who manage team out here listening.
I think the thing that we kind of missed, put any highlights on, is the work I did over the last 20 odd years with the TVJ RJR program.
Yes.
As an analyst. And I honestly think that it has been valuable in terms of getting people to understand how football at the international level is played. And, you know, there are no guarantees, like the Jamaica Football Federation apparently is of a different view, that you can just bring a lot of players in not allow them to train, but they develop into a team. It can't happen like that. You bring players in, you put them together, let them play together, of course, with instructions as to what you want of each player in each role that he has. And hopefully they develop understandings that they become efficient in competitive situations. So I want to put a little emphasis on that part, because it would seem to me that if is one area that we have been short on, is an opportunity for these players to play together, play practice matches, give the coach an opportunity to develop better understandings amongst his players. And so that when it comes competition time, he knows what to expect of each player. Because sometimes when you watch the game, you wonder what the player is doing on the field. He's not sacrificing himself in tackles. He allows players to just go past him with a whole heap of ease. You know, I can't remember. There's a time when you remember Jeffrey Maxwell.
Yes, yes.
Jeffrey's mojo was, if the ball passes, you can't pass. All right? One, but not both. So
he played for Ellison Flat, right?
And Santos for a long period.
Yeah.
But he's in dire straits now.
Yeah, I know he's going through some difficult times right now. Yeah.
So I the work with the RJR thing has been. Why I'm saying this is that a lot of times I'm on the road and people who I don't know, but they can look at me and say, "Hey, are you up on radio? Me listen to you all the while, and rare. Because you have to say things that resonate with the people that are listening. And those things have to be truths. If they are, you're just saying things to get people to listen to you, then I think we have the wrong approach. So if it is that you can bring truths to our people, I think our people will be better off all the time.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Mr. Dimension, the Mr. Dimension said that you coached him.
Great.
He said, and he's the winner of the credit. He said, give Bradley the credit for me as my coach at Juvenile in the 80s. I think he's trying to say here. So he said you coached him. And then he says that JC was a school. JC is a school, not a club. Not was a school. JC is a school. So,
at the outset when I was at JC, there's nothing like recruitment. You had to grow into the system, right? You had to come to school as a first farmer, and you had to play Colts and Pepsi and that kind of thing. All of those recruitment things that are happening now is, I think it's when George Thompson came to Jamaica, went to Veer, that all of this thing started, where he would just go into community. No, but when he went to Veer, and he had much more knowledge of where the players would develop, that he started to come into Kingston and with a busload of players from Kingston back to play for Veer, and so for a long period nobody could beat him, because his approach wasn't to develop academically, was to play football. So that has taken over our mindset. So a lot of our schools now focus on getting talented players into our system, but he doesn't know what his form teacher looks like.
All right. So let me go quickly. These are some very quick responses. One is asking, would you be okay with coaches getting certification and classroom time? I'm not sure if that means
meaning what? You have them within the schedule that they would normally be doing academics. I have a little problem with that. Our schools are academic institutions, right? If it is that we can develop a different stream of schools where the sporting aspects can be highlighted, then fine. But at the moment, because what we have is academic institutions that want to prepare people for advanced tertiary education and develop them for the work environment, then you can have a combination of sports and academics that hopefully would do well in that kind of environment.
Second question, like I said, we're running through quickly through these as we come to an end. Someone is asking if you keep in touch with the Brazilian coach Casa Grande.
No, he was my good friend, but from Casa Grande left here, I don't know that he's been in touch with anybody. All the Brazilian coaches that have been here, I don't know that they keep in touch. Even Montesa, who, along with myself and Vin Blaine and
I am in touch with I'm in touch with Montesa, man. I can connect you guys. We talk often.
I'd love to be able, because it is Montesa, myself, Vin Blaine, and who else? I think Downswell, that was responsible for setting up the curriculum for the Jamaica coaching school.
All right, so I'll line up that for you with Mr. Montesa.
I'd be more than grateful, because at one stage I was he wanted to look outside of Brazil for other opportunities, and I was trying to help.
He's at international in Brazil right now, just on a tournament. So, but I'll line it up at the end. But let me
I'll be grateful. I'll be more than grateful.
We're gonna work on that. All right, Kareem Grant. I didn't see your answer. You got it right, Kareem Grant. But the first person to answer was actually the Mr. Dimension. So I'm very sorry, Kareem Grant. But all right, Kareem Grant, here's a text the number. We're gonna sort you out, because this is I Am Sure Sports, and we want honor work.
We don't want anybody to be disappointed.
Yeah. So seeing that we're gonna give Mr. Stewart some credit, we will give you some credit, Kareem Grant. So text the number with your name, the kind of phone that you use, and we'll send it to you. All right, Mr. Stewart. All right, so let me see. I think you're talking about Winston Chungford, because George T was at KC. So it was Winston Chungford that went down to
Champion.
Right, and then started bringing, when you're talking about the recruiting, it was down there top, and not George T, because George T was really at Kingston College.
Yes.
Right, so I think somebody, Clennon Clark is saying that right there. So big up Clennon Clark, big baller from the past as well.
Yeah, man. He was here a few months ago. He and his daughter. We went to have lunch.
I don't know why. You know that I'm supposed to talk to him, but I don't know why that he's not coming to do Legends interview. But we'll see. But Chadsy Hines is also asking. Bless up Ryan LFC also in the house, and all the other vloggers, Coach Minzy, Sports.
A lot of us as older folks sometimes don't too like the highlights.
Yeah, I know that.
We are kind of reclusive sometimes. We just want to stay in our little corner.
Right. Final one for you, and then we will close out. Chadsy Hines is asking, what would be a starting 11 for the game against the USA? You can take on that one.
No. Why? I am kind of biased in a way that it comes back to the philosophy I have about coaching, that you have to have players who have an understanding about the other player. When he wants to move, what is the thing that's going to trigger his runs, how he likes his ball, whether he likes to chase the ball down through the channels, or he wants to have possession and take on people.
Say no more. Then. Say no more. Yes, say no more.
In favor of those players that have been in the system for a longer time. And that might not be very fair if it is that there are players that would have just come in and, like Antonio, for example, who in the last game, it is said that he did extremely well, But that's it.
All right.
So you have my number. You're going to send me my credit, right?
Yeah, man. Don't worry about that. Mark Chambers is asking, and this is the final question, and then we'll close out. what's your thoughts of the national senior team performance so far? I think you answered that, so
Say,
maybe
say
Mark
that
Chambers.
again.
What
Can you
are your
say?
thoughts? He says, what are your thoughts on the national senior team's performances so far? I think you answered that already, but maybe he joined late, so you can go ahead.
No, but I could just remind him of the things that we said was important in order to develop a team structure. Is training together, having your players over an extended period so they develop familiarity with each other and with the coach. And that hasn't happened. As a result, you're going to have a disjointed team that sometimes they might look good and another time they look pathetic.
Yeah. Yeah. They look disjointed.
Yeah, they're very disjointed sometimes. Or put it there, they look individualistic rather than as a team.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well said. Like I said, Mark Chambers, sorry that you're just coming on possibly to listen, but if you watch the stream again, I know it's long, you'll probably hear his full overview a little bit earlier in the stream. Listen, Mr. Stewart, we're gonna send off the credit. I think because I have the number. Remind, it's a digital phone, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll send off. I mean, and at the
And
end of this, go
remember,
ahead.
I'm using my son's phone now,
Yeah,
you know,
man.
but
I know, man. No, man. I know the number, man.
yeah.
So we'll send it. We'll send it off to you in. Let me see how long it's going to take. Probably in a couple. You'll get it in a couple of minutes. All right. But listen, I want
Thank
to.
you very much. And
Yeah,
I
man.
really want to express my gratitude to you guys for hosting me today. Because I am not one of those people that thrive on the publicity part. I'm kind of a reserved, conservative person. So, but this one has been interesting.
Yeah, you know
And thank
what?
you.
You know what? Tolo says, call me and said, money is man. You have to get Mr. Stewart on in the money is man. You have to talk to the money, the money's man. The money they done the business from long time in the money's man. I say, of course.
Well, you know the history of color. I
Yes,
took
yes.
color as a kid from
Yeah.
Rockport, took him to Doing the Park. When Burrell was in the army, you know, Burrell and myself went to the same school. So he came to me wanting players for the army. So I sent Tolo and some others into the army. And it's like father and son.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything he does, except for the private things, he lets me know, you know. So he's one of my best kids, man. He's a great kid.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but I want to again like say a big thank you to you first, your contribution to the program. I hope if you have the ears of the coach, and you can give him some advice or at least share words of wisdom with him.
No,
You
no,
take the
I,
opportunity
I have
to
so many people that sometimes I can't even get to my bed. People call me wanting advice, and I spend when the wife sometimes think I'm chatting too much, she wants to turn off the light on me.
yeah.
But I have over the years been mentor to a lot of youngsters. Rudy Dixon, who went to Clarendon College, like me.
Yeah.
Um, Hewitt, who coached at Garvey Masio, who played for me at Hazard.
Yeah.
Henry, we have been like family, So I have a lot of people who depend a lot on my opinion. Don't necessarily have to do what I say, but at least you have another opinion.
Yeah.
And
Like
I
I said,
think
I
that
really hope that if you can reach out to the coach and so boy, from my observation, I think this could work. I know him.
well,
Yeah.
but probably I feel a little bit. I say I'm trying to find the right word that I feel committed to Whitmore, having been there with him at the start.
Yeah.
The way it has gone has not been pleasing because I figure that some of the things that I observe is inconsistent with what I know of him. So that is what I'm saying. And it must be that he's been instructed to do certain things. So if he does it, then one have to question whether or not he's loyal to himself or is loyal to his pocket. You know,
Say no
and that,
more.
you know, and I don't want to get too much into
Yes, yes,
that
yes.
kind of personal thing.
Yeah, man. Say no
But
more.
he
Say no
calls
more.
me sometime and I call him sometime, wish him well, you know, but
Okay.
I don't want to interfere with what he does.
Yeah, yeah. People, there you have it. 2.5 hours almost spent with Mr. Bradley Stewart. I mean, coach at Wanderers, Las Perfectos, Hazard, Dwayne Park, Marvel UN then, throughout the National Senior Program, JC, Wolmers, Calabar, you name it. I mean, the levels, the coaching pedigree is high up there. You know, one of the most successful stint of our present national coach. He was there in the program, a man. And so we want to thank him for his years of contribution. Still out there mentoring, leading people, giving advice, still having thoughts of implementing, you know, this whole coaching curriculum from Cover's, coaching, which is geared towards what is called grassroots but development. I mean, bright football in mind. And listen, once you have his number, he doesn't have a problem with you calling him at any time to discuss football. This is how much he loves it. So I want to say a big, big thank you to you, Mr. Stewart. We will stay in touch as soon as this is finished. I will reach out to you and we'll talk some more about some other things. But want to say a big, big, big thank you to you for coming on, for giving us a part of your morning into the afternoon. Thank you to your son, who is a big basketball coach, who really helped us setting up the gadgets and all of that. Just say a big thank you to him as well. All the best, stay in good health, you and your family, and Jamaica appreciates you. Um, and you will reap a reward in due time. You know, I mean, whatever recognition is there, we hope through this medium people will see and know of your contribution and make and give you the recognition you need. I know you're not doing it for that, but we believe in honoring people for their stellar service to the development of sport in the nation at all levels, and you're one of those persons. So a big thank you again, and we're looking forward to having more conversations with you. Hoping that when the game is finished against the USA, you'll be part of the panel, and I am sure sports that gives us your thoughts on the game. So we'll call you again and touch base with you and hear how you feel about it. All right, thank you, sir, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, man. All right. All right. So there you have it, people. That is our special, special guest for the first episode in what we call Coach's Corner. We have one more interview with an ex-coach. We're doing 2 per week. And this week we also will be having um, Jackie Walters. You know him very well, and he'll be coming in to give his thoughts, you know, in terms of coaching throughout the years in Jamaica. Kareem Grant, you know, we also are going to give you a credit because you said you had your answer, didn't see it. We're sorry for that. So here is what you can do. The number that is here, you have to text your number to this number and also tell us what kind of credit phone you have, and we will send the credit to the phone for you. All right, you need to do it before we close the show. All right, yeah. So you need to do it before we close the show, or else you'd have to join us and remind us at the next show, and we will send it to you. All right. So you can do that, Kareem Grant, right now. Take the number, send a text to it, and then you will get it. Want to thank, all the persons who support us, including persons who help us with the credit side, the sponsors of this video, Tricknick. Tricknick is a Jamaican owned and operated company in Canada, and they sell all the products you need for your barbecue and jerk needs. They are offering 25% discount on all their products. All you have to do is shop at tricknick.ca and use this code I am sure sports 001. And if you do that, you'll get 25% discount on everything they sell. At the close of this video, we will play 2 commercials, and then you will see some of the products that they sell. So go out there, support them, let them know that you saw this on I Am Sure Sports, and then you come back and tell us how good the product is. To all of you who joined today, I want to say a big thank you to you. We're like 6 subscribers away from 2,000 subscribers. So if you're watching and you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Or here's what you can do for us. Get one more person to subscribe and we will pass 2,000 subscribers. We want to change our banner from 2K to 3K. And if you can help us get those 6 subscribers today, then we will be able to do that. Also, make sure you like the video before you go. Please stay safe, enjoy the rest of your day, and there's more to come. And I am Sure Sports.
Jamaican herbs and spices add delicious, bold flavor to your next grilling experience. Flavoring sauce, a marinade, basting, condiment, or topping. Trick Nick Jerk Barbecue Sauce.
Trick Jerk Marinade gives your meats and vegetables authentic Jamaican jerk flavor. The spices are directly from Jamaica. Spices like jerk seasoning, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper, fresh scallions, thyme, ginger, and garlic. The key ingredients to a great jerk marinade. 0% sugar and low in sodium. You want to try it?